You know, coming back here is always a fun little throwback. This exact spot where I made my first few Crystal of Atlan videos. So I figure, we'll use the spot a little bit more while I get my actual spaces in order. Meaning I need to actually decorate my island so we have a place to record from. But that's not what we're here to talk about in today's video. Today, we're going to talk about the new weapons, as well as the new accessories that were added into Crystal of Atlan, and what you should be paying attention to, what your decision making is going to consist of after you complete the brand new raid that we have scheduled for, as of right now, tomorrow. So after maintenance on Thursday, pop over here into craft, we'll actually see some new things that have been added in. First, we'll see that's added in is a new weapon line. Now, if you don't keep up with the CN servers, you don't know exactly where our weapon line set to go to or complete. But as someone who does, I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a little bit of insider information, just a bit of information so you're aware of what to be prepared for. So you see here we have what usually people will refer to as the elemental sword, the elemental weapon, the crit weapon, and the queen weapon. The reason that we referred to as queen weapon was because you got the drops originally from doing the queen raid at level 60, upgraded to level 70 gear, and it continued forward from there. It is still the strongest weapon. It's the strongest weapon at every tier. However, at this most recent tier, it has finally been beaten. We have a new weapon called the Soulbane weapon. You can look at it for other classes as well. It has different names. They couldn't have made it easy for me. They couldn't have just kept it all the same. No. By the way, this is what they're calling the new queen weapon. This is going to drop from the new raid that they're adding in, the Garden of Nihility. So the Garden of Nihility is going to drop these bells at a very, very low rate. It's going to be very, very difficult to get a hold of in case you're curious of how this is going to work out. Basically, it's the one per item you can go for. Its guarantee is 48,000, and you can invest 8,000 of those yellow rocks, meaning that they're probably all bought up off of the market as of right now. And in case you happen to have any, if you're not going after this queen weapon, you may want to consider selling them at max price. Well, not necessarily max price, but just below max price, because it's always going to be worth purchasing yours versus people buying them, as you can just buy these outright, but the max price is basically equal to that if you bought them from a vendor. So people will always try to buy off the market first, then go over to the vendor. But this does mean that now, since these gold rocks are going to be so important to go towards the prayer, to go towards these weapons, it's going to be more beneficial for you now if you were burning your energy. If I can get to it, menus are the devil. More beneficial for you to actually burn all of your green energy on Abyssal Purgatory if you weren't already doing so, on all of your characters actually, because you want to get as many yellow rocks as possible. Whether you're selling them or using them, they're going to be your best value when it comes down to gold. But that's all we're here for. We're here to talk about the weapons and what they do. So let's go ahead and take a look. The weapon's gonna be pretty easy. I mean, there's only one choice. It's the Soulbane weapon, or the new queen weapon as they call it. The interesting thing about this is the new weapon is going to have 9 slots. This will be the case for all the weapons. So the queen weapon will also upgrade. The crit weapon will also upgrade, and all these will have 9 slots. They will keep the same effects basically, but they'll just have the added line in that, hey, now you can have extra 2 levels of inscription. So nothing too crazy there. Actually, I think it does increase the, let's see, every 14%. Yeah, it does increase this maximum crit up to 9%. It's 0.5 per stack instead of 0.4, so it does increase your damage just a little bit. You also get some more stat out of it, I believe. Yeah, 2% more crit damage, 5% more attack, and you trade out. Oh no, so you add in a damage to debuffed on the list for an extra 4%. So pretty solid. The other weapon, I believe, does something similar. I don't really use it because I mean, it's not really that useful. I think I want to say only. Maybe Warlock cares about the elemental weapon, but either way, the stronger weapon is the queen weapon. We're going to talk about the new weapon, so let's talk about it. Stat-wise, we've got 11% crit, or M crit, which is up, I believe, from our crit weapon. Oh, no, it's equal. Okay, cool. 11% M crit, 20% crit damage. That is up 4% from our other weapons, so that is pretty massive. All attribute enhancement plus 38. M attack plus 10%. Damage bonus 11. Basically, it's just going to be some damage stats. You could go through and read all these too. You could take a look yourself. It's up to you realistically how you want to look at it, but they're just some damage stats. The big thing here is going to be how it interacts with your kit. So in the past, when we look at the previous queen weapon, we knew that basically every time you used a finishing attack or awakening attack, there's an 8% chance for you to summon either Ophelia, Leotids, or Polonas to assist in combat. Had a 60-second cooldown. So once a minute, you had a chance, 8% chance to summon an extra chunk of damage, basically is what it was. It's very RNG, and that was pretty much it. This gets rid of the RNG. So we have Reflected Demon, which is our awakening. That's our final awakening. The cooldown is brought down by 15%, and the damage increased by 10% or 15%, which you can expect to be across the board for basically everyone's max awakening skill. Is going to reduce, of course, the cooldown, increase the damage. The big thing is going to be with the Lost Domain Ruination. So get on to Lost Domain Ruination. Attacks inflict 23% additional damage, which is pretty massive. And then hitting enemies grants disassociation up to once per second. At 15 stacks, enter the edge of Lost Domain state. Casting Finisher during this state consumes all dissociation stacks and triggers Lost Realm, which is just a chunk of damage on a 90-second cooldown. So basically, once every 90 seconds, as long as you ult after you have 15 stacks, which you will after you're in combat, you get an extra chunk of damage. So instead of you having to rely on an RNG proc of 8%, this is just going to be every 90 seconds, extra chunk of damage. This is not in the same line as this, meaning this has no cooldown on it. This is just 23% additional damage you're going to be able to deal, which is pretty nice. And that's pretty much it for this tier of the, quote, Queen weapon. For anyone who's curious, this is the end of the level 70 tier. This is going to be the penultimate weapon. This weapon is going to stop here. These weapons stop here. This weapon will continue on into level 80. There will be an upgrade for it. These weapons will end here. That does mean the Queen weapon pretty much, I don't want to say it's lost its value. It does still have value, and I'm going to show you its value in just a moment. But the Queen weapon basically is not going to continue to upgrade from this point. To continue to show you the use case for the Queen weapon, we had to come over here to the crafting bench so you can see what you actually do with these bells. So you can see here that 2 bells plus 8,000 more of these gold rocks is what's going to craft this item here. Once you have this item in your inventory, you basically clear the fight and you get your weapon. Now you can see here, there is another way to craft this. If you look up here, it says when owning a chess soul weapon. So if you were to make a Queen weapon, so basically if you were to have the Queen weapon, it's going to cut the cost of your gold rocks down to 2,000. You're going to basically save yourself 6,000 gold rocks. It's going to be a massive chunk that you're saving as far as currency. So if you have the Queen weapon, you do get to get the newer weapon at a bit of a discount. However, it is still very, very expensive. Well, technically, if you put the money into it, it's still very expensive to get the Queen weapon unless you're taking the time over a long period of time to get a hold of it. So it's up to you the route you go on this one. It is still worth to try to get your Queen weapon. So even if you don't end up using the Queen weapon, making the Queen weapon itself and then being able to have it so you can reduce the cost of this weapon, and then of course using the Queen weapon during the level 70 patch is going to be beneficial for you. So I do still recommend picking up your Queen weapon stuff as you go along, throwing your orange rocks in, and you can sell them. It's up to you. Maybe you're not going to go for these weapons. Maybe you're not that invested. That's totally fine. But if you are trying to get the most out of your character, it's going to still be worth it for you to throw those orange rocks into the prayer for the Queen weapon. Continue to go ahead and do your automatic claims for your Queen weapon and pray that you happen to get your Queen pieces. Eventually, you will get them. You'll get your upgrades and so on and so forth. Basically, you'll be able to get what it is you're looking for. So we have all of this, but the weapon is not the only thing our new raid brings us. Well, I did kind of skip over the fact that those items upgrade. They are based on needing these currencies. These just drop from the raid. So pretty straightforward, pretty self-explanatory. You don't really need to worry anything about that. And like I mentioned, the Queen weapon also upgrades. It just upgrades its stats, adds 2 lines to your inscriptions. And in case you're curious, what you think you're going to do with those inscriptions? To be honest, I think you're just going to max out using Smite. I think that has the best use case scenario as far as inscriptions are concerned. But I'm sure that there's going to be more things that people come along with that are going to be better overall, more beneficial for you. So end of the day, it's up to you. You're going to want to max out your inscriptions. So just be keeping an eye out for what you want to use. So the really interesting thing in this update is actually going to be the accessories. So with the new raid, we have a new line of accessories. Now, all of these accessories can be upgraded into from any accessory line. So whether you have Sunflame, you have Divinity, or you have Demonic, you can upgrade it to any accessory line. All of them work, in case you're curious. You can see literally all of them work. Or you can swap between them if you really need to, right? So you can switch over if you really want to swap accessories over. That's also a possibility. And all it requires is basically the equivalent of like the rocks and then of course the conches, right? So you may be able to create these in a shop. Actually, I think you can. Yes, you can. Okay, cool. So you can create these in the inside store. directly from Fred if you absolutely need to. So it's not gonna be too bad to get a hold of them. This also does bring us the shop that has the otherworldly Bane potions. Not that we really use those that often, but they could be beneficial for things like raid early on. But I digress, talking about the actual accessories. So there are 4 accessory lines we have. We have Shimmering Thought Shadow, we have Sentimental Oblivion, we have Soul Ember, and we have Warden's Duality. Now, in case you're curious and you want to get the answer very quickly, you don't want to skip all the BS, this is my understanding of each individual set. We'll talk about what each individual set does, if you can make your own decisions at the very end, but it's how these actually kind of work. So, first one we're looking at is Shimmering Thoughts. This one seems to be devoid of requiring anything. Most of the damage is built directly into the actual set itself. To take a look at this, basically, when you cast Resonance, you boost the effects of everything else on the actual set. So all set effects under Shimmering Thoughts are boosted by initial 75% for 10 seconds on 25-second cooldown. So all of these effects here, so increased damage, skill damage, basic attack damage, this is the Shimmering set. These get increased by 50 or 75% whenever you proc Resonance. I don't know why I thought this was 80. I think I might have been looking at a different set. That's what I was looking at. Never mind. Okay, cool. Making sure. Yeah, basically this is kind of like the Resonance set. You pop Resonance, you get extra damage. That's pretty much it. The way this set actually works, each individual piece gets gives you an extra damage stat line based on a point value that you build up when you attack. As that point value goes up, it gets to its cap. The more, of course, accessories you have equipped of that set, the more of a cap you have. You attack, you get points. Those points translate to damage stats. The necklace is crit damage. The bracer is, it looks like it's to be just damage percent. The ring provides you basic attack and skill damage. The seal provides you damage to bosses, and the talisman is going to give you all attribute. So basically across the board, it has stats, it's useful, but basically this is going to be your press resonance, deal more damage set. You don't get extra resonance bars or anything along those lines, extra resonance buildup or anything like that. It's just press resonance, deal more damage. Very, very straightforward, very simple. The Sentimental Oblivion set's a little bit weird. So think of each individual piece as having its own proc set effect. And then the way the actual set bonus works, of course, it has, of course, it's all damage, whatever, all class skills, but there's a 50% chance to trigger other set effects. It doesn't say all of them, it just says other set effects except for Fear and Anger. Now, Fear just gives you a shield and healing whenever your HP gets low. You go to Bracers. The Bracer has Sorrow, which gives you damage res when you get hit. We go to the Ring. The Ring is Anger. Anger gives us damage on our next skill after casting Resonance. So Resonance, our next skill is going to get a massive buff, deal much more damage. Seal is Joy, which when we passed a pet skill, you gain Joy for 30 seconds, increasing your damage dealt. And our Talisman is Apathy. When casting skills, gain 1 stack of Apathy, increasing your damage to bosses by 1.5% for 12 seconds, stacking 10 times. Which, of course, you stack more, you can reset the stack, so on and so forth. So when you're casting skills, you're getting this. Basically, you're going to have this up all the time. With our current sandbox in the game, like, you're going to be all set when it comes to casting skills. So I wouldn't really be too worried about this whatsoever. But this is basically kind of like mini set bonuses, and you can activate them all at random. So you have some little effects that are going to be going on. I'll be honest, it does seem kind of lame a little bit. Well, we know we can't activate Fear and Anger. So Fear, you can't activate the extra heal all the time. And Anger, I believe, is the Ring. Yeah, the Ring, which is after casting Resonance, you get the next skill damage is plus 20%. So yeah, that would seem probably pretty crazy strong, randomly just getting an extra 20% on a skill. And then I look at something like the Seal. I believe the Seal's kind of cracked a little bit. Yeah, so the Seal is, oh, wrong one. The Seal is just gain, say, when casting a pet skill, gain Joy for 30 seconds, increasing damage by 13%. Like, you just get 13% increased damage. This can be activated at random. And then the Talisman is Apathy, which is damage to bosses, which will basically almost always be active anyway. Like, you just can activate it more. So it's kind of weird. The big thing also is all the set effects are increased by 80%, so all of these are way stronger. So it's just like one of the situations where you have access to almost everything except for 2 of your sets. And until we understand what the math, how it actually works out, it either is really insanely powerful or just kind of weirdly RNG unnecessary. I think this is going to be one of the sets that while you're building towards your set, it's going to be really, really strong. Once you have your full set, it may not be as powerful as the other 2 sets. Shimmering just kind of feels like it's that catch-all, like you just need damage, this is your damage set button. Very non-committal, very, you know, you don't really need to worry about too much of anything. Sentimental Oblivion just sounds like some weird RNG. On paper, you would think everything would kind of activate, but like extremely bad RNG could cause some things not to activate and be kind of bad. But we'll have to see how it actually works out when it comes down to the sets. What it sounds like this is going to, like, this extra 50% chance to activate other set effects is going to bridge the gap for times you can't force the activation of specific set effects. So we get to go there. Also, I know this says set effects. This is talking about specifically the set effect of the actual pieces you're using, not your other set effects. If this affects other set effects, then this is easily the strongest one and it's no contest. Because that would be crazy. Because that would mean it would be activating things like, you know, your set effect from your armor and stuff like that. And not only would this be insanely powerful, that would make Butterfly insanely powerful as well. So if it does work like that, which I don't think it does, but if it does work like that, absolutely crazy, absolutely cracked. But pretty sure it doesn't. Won't be able to test it for you guys until we get the test server for Sugar Rift, quote unquote, or Sonic Boom, if you guys know it from the CN name. I won't be able to test it for you till then, probably, because that's probably when we're going to be able to have access to those. So we'll test it out when that happens. But for right now, unless someone else wants to go about trying this out, or maybe someone played it on CN, maybe they have that information, not really something I'm going to recommend personally. Next, this next set is really easy. Soul Ember Pendant. So this is just have inscription, deal more damage. So this set effect is going to be one that gives you 9 out of 9 instead of 7 out of 7. All the rest of them are 7 out of 7 as normal. So if you go over here, 7 out of 7. The Soul Ember Pendant effect is 9 out of 9. This is max your inscriptions, gain extra damage. The individual pieces just have extra damage built into them anyway. So as you can see here, when your gear inscription reaches level 9, you get extra 10% damage on the necklace. On the bracer, you get an extra 18% crit damage. On the ring, you get all attribute enhancement. On the seal, you're going to get damage to debuff. And on the talisman, you're going to get basic attack and skill damage. As far as the set bonus is just going to be when trinket slot inscription reaches 40, you're going to get 27%. Sorry, 27 all attribute. When you get to 43, you gain 8% damage to bosses. When you get 45, you gain all attribute damage. 10% all attribute damage bonus. So this is just going to be have max inscriptions, gain more damage. This is mostly going to be you taking advantage of the best inscriptions you can utilize. So you want to make sure that you are taking advantage of those inscriptions for the set to be powerful. I'm pretty sure this is going to be default the choice that most players go towards at this point in time if you've been playing the entire season. But really looking at the other sets, like thinking about it, if you can't really take advantage of the sets of the inscriptions you have, it might not be a bad idea to look at something that's shimmering or maybe even sentimental. The Soul Ember Talisman does look pretty solid. It is just raw statage. It does have really good stats in the mix. You can see here that everything is created equal. So we can take a look here. We've got 9% basic attack, but if we're looking over at something Sentimental Oblivion, it's just damage to bosses, right? It is a little bit different. I'm actually not sure. Is the stats also the same? 13% damage. Yeah, this is 12% damage, right? So there's something that happens, is very common. The raw stats from some of these are a little bit higher. This one's 12%. This one's 13%. I think they have the same stat lines as well. That had damage during resonance 8%. This has damage during resonance 10%. So you see things are like balanced around a little bit differently. This has got 40 CD on it. We're looking at Sentimental Oblivion. Sentimental Oblivion has no cooldown on it, actually. And if we look at Shimmering, excuse me, that has 40 cooldown on it. This has 8% damage during resonance, while Soul Ember has got, 10% damage during resonance. Sentimental has got 8% damage during resonance. So sets are not created equal. Some things are going to be balanced a little bit differently, but you want to look at the set overall. And then we bring us to our last set. The last set is pretty obviously going to be the support set. It's called Warden's Duality. Essentially what this does is going to create a field around you called Equilibrium Your Mindscape. You can kind of see what it does here. Last 10 seconds, radius of 8 meters. When you're in this, you're going to get damage boost and crit damage per second based on your stacks. And basically the entire set bonus is just going to be increasing that enhancement, increasing the time, and making the range bigger while also making the cooldown shorter. So you're going to be able to support better the more pieces you get. The cool thing about this set is it actually buffs the user a little bit more too. So in this case, you have damage to debuff targets, which is always going to be debuffed if you're playing any form of support, or if you're just playing currently in the current sandbox. Debuffs are not difficult to apply to bosses nowadays, especially with the cards that we're using. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy. So damage debuff targets 12% from the necklace. Go to the bracer. I just hit go to craft. Hold on a second. Let's try that again. Look at the bracer. We can go down and we'll see we get basic attack and skill damage. Go to the ring. Try not to do that second time. We get damage to bosses. We go to the seal. We get recovery 1.2%, max HP per second, 50 attack speed, 50 cooldown, 10% movement speed. And these effects are doubled for the caster, which is really nice. So all of this is doubled, so you get extra cooldown, extra attack speed, a little bit more healing, and a bit more movement speed, which is really, really nice as a support. And the talisman is going to give you extra M and P defense, which is going to actually interact with the way Bulwark works at the top, which is P defense and M defense converted into P attack and M attack respectively, which is going to affect your equilibrium mindscape. So it just all kind of works together. Basically, create, if you've seen in what is it called, in Nexum, some cards giving you that blue ring around you, like that's basically that same effect. It's going to be like that for supports. So you will likely see this a lot more on things like your scythe guards and so on and so forth. It is nice to see that they're thinking more about how much stronger that's going to be for supports, making them a bit more tanky. You may see other, supportive characters come around and use them. You could, in theory, see like maybe a Zerker going a bit more defensive on early fights or things like that. People like to do off meta things, so just keep that in mind. You don't have to go exactly what the meta is, unless of course you're spending tons and tons of money trying to be top. Then of course you want to go with whatever the strongest options are. But you do have options with these different sets. Am I telling you as a Zerker you should go for the support set? No. But I'm telling you as a Zerker, if you want to be a supportive Zerker, if you're going for the option that makes you not die once, if you're trying to keep an eye on like your defensive stats, if you want to support your other people around you and you know that you don't go for the most amount of damage possible because maybe your class doesn't do it, maybe you don't have that money investment, then yeah, maybe in that circumstance, you might want to think about going Warden's Duality. Are you a newer player that picked up the game with the release of Karma Slayer and you haven't been playing the entire season, so you don't have all of the inscriptions that you need at the moment, you're still collecting your inscriptions? Yeah, well then maybe you don't want to think about picking up Soul Ember because you don't have the inscriptions for it, and maybe Shimmering might be more your jam. Or maybe you believe in the whole fact that activating these different sets that are going to be here, Apatheon, so on and so forth, is going to be, in combination, more powerful overall than any of the other options that are available to you. Maybe your class doesn't use inscriptions very well. Maybe you just need more raw status, more damage, and you see that in all of these different options that are available to you here. Then, in that case, Sentimental Oblivion might be better for you. As I don't have the exact numbers, I can't tell you what's going to be the absolute best for you. You're going to have to decide at the end of the day. That's it for all of our different accessories and how they're going to be working out. We've got quite a bit of time. They're likely going to give us a catch-up event that's going to help us get these accessories faster. There is no RNG in this tier of accessory, but this is not the last set that we have. There will be one more set that upgrades here as well. So we have at minimum 2 raids. This first one, not so bad, because all we need to get is the Ethereal Mind Blooms as well as the Mind Fruits. The next one's not as nice, so just be prepared for that. Oh, and in case you're curious, no. The armor does not upgrade anymore. This is the end of the line for our armor. We're good to go here. So if you wanted to, let's say, for example, you were running Butterfly and you wanted to jump over to Taboo, go ahead and do so. Or maybe you're running Taboo, you wanted to jump to Butterfly, it might be better for you. Or maybe you're running a support, you want to jump something else. This is your time. You finally start using your conches pretty liberally, as long as you have already made sure to pick up your newest relic, which is going to give you the best effects for your upgrades. Hopefully that covers everything. If I missed anything, feel free to let me know in the comments below. As always, like if you enjoyed, subscribe to keep with more, and thank you to the channel members as well as the Patreon members. You guys are fantastic, and I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, my friends. Peace out.